It's good. I'm not gonna lie, it is good. Oh hey, I'm Nadia and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This week I had a really big craving for crepes, so I figured why not make a batch. So in this video I'm going to show you guys how to make a very simple and delicious crepe, but I also want to take them to the next level and try making them into a cake. Yes, you heard correctly, a cake, but also not just any cake. I want to try making a tiramisu crepe layered cake. That's a lot of information to take in, so on that note, let's get cooking. I'm going to be timesing this recipe by 6, but in the description box below, I'll make sure to put the single batch version. So first things first, we have to separate our eggs. These ones have been sitting at room temperature, which makes them a lot easier to separate. Look, 2 eggs at a time. I'm going to beat these really well and then add salt, sugar, vanilla, and melted butter. You want your butter to be melted but not hot. Continue mixing to make sure everything's properly combined. One thing I can guarantee from this recipe is that you're going to have some really nice muscles by the end of it. Now I'm going to add my sifted flour a little bit at a time, and you can see the mixture is getting thicker. I mean, obviously we're adding flour. Now my mom told me that it would be a good idea to use the stand mixer to mix all these ingredients, but I was like, I'm going to do it by hand, the old school way, we got this. My arm got tired like 30 seconds in, so I ended up using the immersion blender. This made it a lot easier to get through all the clumps. If you did use a stand mixer or a hand mixer or even just a whisk, make sure you're mixing it really, really well, and if you find that there are clumps, you can just run it through a sifter at the end. Just before it becomes really, really thick and almost like a batter, that's when you want to start adding your milk a little bit at a time. This is going to thin it out and make it a lot easier to mix, and then from here you're just going to alternate between the milk and the flour. I'm going to transfer the batter into some glass containers and store it in the fridge overnight. You can let it sit for a few hours or not at all, whatever you prefer. Fast forward to the next day, I took the batter out of the fridge as soon as I woke up and let it sit at room temperature. It was really thick, so I added some milk to thin it out, and then I prepared my pan. On a low-medium heat, dip a tablespoon in some oil and just splash it on your pan. You're not taking a full tablespoon and adding it to the pan, literally just a couple splashes and that'll do. Then with a ladle filled about 3/4 of the way, you want to pour your batter in the middle of the pan and give it a few turns until it's all evenly distributed. Crepes cook really quickly, like a minute or 2 on each side, so make sure to stay close by. I usually scrape the sides of the pan and then lift it up a little just to see how it's doing on the other side. This one is already a little bit overdone, so I'm going to flip it right away. Some people use their fingers, but I'm weak, so a spatula it is. Safety first, kids. As you can see, this crepe is super thick. It isn't spreading very nicely, so I'm going to continue to add milk so that it can thin out even more. You can see that because this one is too thick, when I flipped it, it almost starts to bubble, and we don't want that, guys. Crepes are thin for a reason. There's also a reason this recipe doesn't have a lot of sugar in it. It's because sugar burns a lot quicker. So again, I timed this recipe by 6 and I added the full 12 tablespoons of sugar, but that was way too much. You can reduce it, and the same goes for the vanilla. Once it's cooled, you can top it any way you want. Of course, I'm going to be adding peanut butter, Nutella, and ground plasma because I just add that stuff on absolutely everything. Some people like jam, and of course you can also add fruit or even make them savory with some ham and cheese. Okay, so I like to hold my crepe by tucking in the sides and then rolling it up. Some people will fold it in half and half again. And that's not right. That's not how you do it. No. You can also see here that there's a difference between a normal crepe and the thick crepe that I made a little bit earlier. It's really subtle, but when you bite into a crepe, you want it to complement the filling. So ratio is really key here. It's just stiff. Like there's no give, there's no flexibility. This even just feels more like a proper crepe. It's soft, it's light, it's everything you want, rolled up. Well, that's all from me this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Just kidding, we have the tiramisu cake to get to. I've made tiramisu on this channel before, so it's basically gonna be the exact same thing, just minus the ladyfingers. I'm gonna do a few plain crepes, but I wanna make a tiramisu cake, which means I'm gonna add some instant espresso, amaretto, and frangelico to the batter. We're gonna start off by taking our lovely mascarpone cheese and adding a shot of amaretto and a shot of frangelico. I'm going to set that to the side and then separate 6 egg yolks and whisk in 2/3 of a cup of sugar. You could always reduce this if you want. That's going to go over a double boiler until it thickens. The trick to seeing if it's thick enough is taking your whisk and drawing figure 8s and seeing if it holds its shape. Once it's good, I'm going to cover it with some saran wrap and place it in the fridge to cool. I'm then going to whip up some super fluffy whipped cream and then fold it into the cooled mascarpone mixture a little bit at a time.
Did you take a video last night?
Yeah. I drew 8s. The assembly part of this is really easy. You can use plain crepes if you want, but I'm going to use these special tiramisu ones because I think it's really going to give the cake a little bit of an extra oomph. This might even be easier than a regular tiramisu because you don't have to worry about over dipping the ladyfingers. You really just have to take a crepe, spread a few tablespoons of the mascarpone cheese, and repeat. I'm gonna top it off with some plain whipped cream and lots of cocoa powder. Did I get cocoa powder on my shirt? Absolutely I did. In a way, my shirt is like the tiramisu cake. It has crepes and cream and now cocoa powder. I think there's a little bit of crepe batter on here. Anyway, it's fine. I actually lost count of how many crepes I used, so I'm gonna have to recount when I go to edit, but it looks so, so beautiful. I'm like, I don't really want to cut it. It's just so nice. All right, but here we go. It cuts pretty easy. It's smooth. Oh my God, that was so satisfying. I hope this goes well. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, that looks insane. Whoa. Oh my God. I'm so happy. I think it's 22 layers. I'm gonna try this cake now, and it's just insane. I'm like, I don't even know how to, I feel like I need a knife. It's all coming apart. Okay. Ooh. Well, that's nice. I mean, it's kind of falling apart, but that's okay. It is absolutely delicious. It's light, airy. It tastes exactly like tiramisu, and it's just, oh, it's slipping and sliding everywhere. I think the trickiest part in this whole process was actually getting the crepes right. The consistency was the first part that you want to make sure you get down, because it's going to make frying them a lot easier. It does take a little while to fry them just because you're doing one by one, so if you really wanted to, you could have 2 pans on the stove at the same time. But I mean, that's completely up to you. Making the tiramisu filling itself was actually really easy. If you do want a more detailed explanation, I'll link the tiramisu video down below and you can check it out. This was definitely a hit in my books. I think this dessert would be really fun for like birthdays and stuff. So for example, if the person's turning like 20, you could do like 20 crepes to represent like 20 years, or anniversaries and things like that. You can also switch it up and infuse the crepes with different things. I was actually thinking you could use like an instant hot chocolate powder to give it like a more chocolatey flavor. This recipe is also really nice because you can just make plain old simple crepes and fill them with anything you want, or you can transform them into something. So you kind of get a 2 for 1. It is a little time consuming, but it's definitely worth it. The one thing that I would do a little bit differently the next time I make crepes is adding a little less sugar and a little less vanilla. It's not that they're too sweet, it's just that when I was frying them, I definitely noticed that the sugar was affecting it a little bit. Also, if you're not a huge fan of vanilla, definitely reduce it because you can taste it. It's not overpowering, but it's definitely there, so just something to keep in mind. That's all for me this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you recreate any of these recipes, please tag me. I really want to see how they turn out. I'll see you guys next Friday. I kind of look like a mime in this shirt, I'm not gonna lie. You can clap now.
Yay! You did it.
I'm in a box. I'm having such deja vu right now, I don't know why. Now I'm walking down the stairs. Not very well, but I still did it. It's like when you buy shoes, you want there to be like